people in the door. Don't miss it. Live free with American Shaman CBD.
Move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to...
Good morning, Paige. Good morning, Perm. Home of the Yellow Jackets. Thank you for making KFGO number one in the morning, number one all day long. The KFGO Morning Crew. Doug Lear, Bonnie Mastadi, getting your Tuesday set for you.
Every Tuesday around 7:40, we are joined by licensed registered dietitian. Good morning to you, Elizabeth.
Good morning.
Elizabeth, I want to start off and explain that this is not about me. Okay, we're going to talk about eating fruit. And I will tell you that my kids do not follow their dad's example. My family loves to eat fruit. Now, we're transitioning into the winter months. They've been eating fresh fruit and a variety of fresh fruit. Now they're thinking of, and mom's thinking, okay, we go into the wintertime. I'm going to buy frozen fruit because it's easier than cutting up all the fresh fruit. And maybe this time of year, not as much of a challenge of getting maybe some stuff that's a little bit less fresh. Do we sacrifice nutrients when we shift from fresh fruit to frozen fruit?
You do not, because that frozen fruit, when they picked it, it was picked like at its peak ripeness, and then they freeze it. So you are losing no nutrients if you're choosing frozen fruit over fresh. And your wife does have a good point. I mean, we lose a lot of variety in the winter months as far as fruits and vegetables go. So if you want to mix it up, I would say frozen is a great option.
Did you hear her say your wife is right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Do they make smoothies, or are they just eating frozen fruit?
Well, my middle daughter likes to mix it in with her yogurt, so she's going to put it in a bowl overnight and then let it kind of thaw out in the fridge a little bit and then dump it into her yogurt.
I support these decisions. I think they are wise.
Does that same thought process hold true on veggies? Like if you go from fresh veggies to frozen veggies or canned veggies?
Yep, same. It's all fresh and frozen are really going to be your healthiest, but I've never discriminated against canned vegetables because sometimes it's what you have in the cupboard, or it's what's in your budget, or it's maybe just your preference. So I would rather have people eating canned vegetables versus not eating them if they think they're unhealthy.
We're visiting with licensed registered dietitian Elizabeth Meyer. If you have any questions for her, you can text them into the 702 Communications Text Club, 35270. Pick up the phone, give her a call, 237-5948, 1-800-880-5346. Now, I know last week somebody asked you about cinnamon for diabetes, and I believe you told us that really doesn't make a difference, right?
Right, it doesn't. I mean, if you want to take or use extra cinnamon, it's not going to hurt anything, but
okay. And then another question we got was turmeric, which is another spice, which we didn't have time to get to. Did you look into that?
I did look into that, and it looks like, I mean, turmeric could be healthy for you. It maybe could be, it's kind of anti-inflammatory. So maybe if you're dealing with arthritis or something like that, you might notice a difference. But I would say you're probably going to be better off using it in your food versus taking like a capsule or like the pill form of it. So if you like turmeric, add it to your food and you might notice some benefits from it.
Is it always better to try to get those nutrients from foods rather than a capsule or a pill, Elizabeth?
It is, but I realize we definitely don't eat perfect. So if people are taking, multivitamins, that's great to kind of catch those holes that you're missing. And things like vitamin D, there's just not foods that have enough vitamin D for us. So it's good to, supplement sometimes. But whenever you can get it from your food, it's going to be a more effective option.
Licensed registered dietitian Elizabeth Meyer joins us each and every Tuesday at this time, answering health, food, and diet questions. Had a follow-up question from whether it was last week or the week before that. We've talked about honey a number of times. Does it matter if you mix honey in with things? Do you lose the benefits of honey when you mix it in with oatmeal or mix it in with tea? Or should you just be like Pooh Bear and just stuffing your head in the whole honey bowl and eating it raw?
You're not going to lose anything if you're mixing it into your oatmeal or putting it on your peanut butter toast or whatever. If you want to eat it plain, I guess that's fine too. I don't know a lot of people that are just eating spoonfuls of honey, but I mean, if that works for you.
If that's your thing, do it. Okay. And as you mentioned last week, there was quite a few questions that started coming in about diabetes, and we have another one that came into the 702 Communications Text Club. somebody is diabetic, they don't specify type 1 or type 2. I'm not sure if that matters in terms of how you answer here, but they drink 3 to 4 bottles of water a day, but they always put a flavor packet in it. Is that good or bad?
I think that's totally fine. I usually try to encourage people try to get some just plain water in there too, but I know some people just aren't a fan of plain water, and so those little packets that I'm assuming that they're talking about is like a Crystal Light, a sugar-free option, so it isn't going to do anything to your blood sugar, and it is important to stay hydrated. So if you are one of those people who just can't do the regular water, I think that's okay to do.
But the key is to make sure that that's sugar-free?
Yeah, that would be the key in the question of diabetes and everything. And I'm guessing it probably is.
Okay, and it's been a while since we've, discussed diabetes in depth, but is there more than 2 types? Type 1, type 2, is gestational a third type, or how does that work out?
Yeah, gestational is the third type, obviously affecting pregnant women. Generally, it goes away after you have the baby, like immediately after the baby comes out, your blood sugars go back to normal. I think it's absolutely crazy. But it does put you at risk for type 2 diabetes if you had gestational diabetes. And then there's pre-diabetes, too, that, can be diagnosed, and you might be able to hold off getting type 2 diabetes or prevent it. So it's wise to go in and have your, preventative visits and have your blood drawn so they can test these things, because sometimes that's the only way you're going to know that something's wrong, because you might think you feel fine.
Is diabetes reversible once you have it, Elizabeth?
No, once you have it, but you might be able to control it with diet and with exercise. But the thing is it's kind of a progressive illness, so you might be able to control it with diet and exercise for a couple of years, but then you might need to add an oral medication. You might need to add insulin or something like that, and that's just how it is. That's just how it's treated. So it's not the end of the world if you've been controlling it with diet and exercise, and now your blood sugars are maybe creeping up, and you might just need a little extra help. But it's always going to be, you're always going to have diabetes if you have it.
All right. And, somebody actually had mentioned too a diabetes camp where kids can go. And I know because we're friends on Facebook that you have done that before. And
Yeah.
how big of a deal is that for kids to go to camp and be with kids that also suffer from diabetes?
It honestly is life-changing for so many of these kids, because a lot of them do not know anyone else that has to deal with the things that they deal with having diabetes, and most of them have type 1 diabetes. So honestly, getting them there is usually the biggest task, because I always laugh and say, well, diabetes camp doesn't exactly sound like where people want to go for the summer. But if they go for a week, I know tons of kids that it has completely changed their lives, and they get that whole week where they get to feel normal. And I go work as the dietitian at diabetes camp. Harper comes with me, and she usually feels left out because she's the only one not. So she's taken shots, she's started pumps, check her blood sugar. So if you have a kid with diabetes, I would look into it. I do think that they are all canceled for 2021, but in 2020.
Where is that from the Fargo-Moorhead area? Where is that diabetes camp that you volunteer at, Elizabeth?
It is in Park River, North Dakota, so it's up in Walsh County. So it's like probably 2 hours from Fargo.
And if people are listening and they've never heard of it or want more information, how would they go about finding some more information on that?
If they just Google, it's called Camp Sue. So if they Google Camp Sue Diabetes Camp, or go to the Diabetes Association website, which I think is diabetes.org, there should be a resource on there for camps.
Did you say Camp Sue?
Yep.
So like SIOUX, or a woman's name Sue?
Nope, SIOUX.
Okay, very interesting. All right, great stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time this morning, Elizabeth. Great follow-up on all those carryover questions from last week. We appreciate your time.
Hey, thank you guys.
You bet. We'll catch you again next week. That's licensed registered dietitian Elizabeth Meyer joining us here on the